Good morning and welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm Robert Phoenix, jamming the airwaves live from Austin, Texas, here on the 5th of December. And while it is dropping in temperature here, it is certainly heating up in Southern California. Some of you may be aware of the fact that we have another raging, out-of-control fire in Ventura County going down. And sounds suspiciously like what happened in Santa Rosa. And the only difference here with the two fires is that Ventura County has a lot more. Well, there's a lot of foliage in Santa Rosa and Napa and Sonoma County, but it's a different kind of foliage. In Ventura County, there's more trees that probably have the California or the Japanese bark beetle, which has gotten into a number of trees in California, basically eats it from the inside out and turns the trees into kindling. That was a huge problem in Southern California when I lived there, and I would bet that it's perhaps a bit more predominant in the Ventura County area than in the Napa and Sonoma County areas, in which case we're looking at kindling. But the description of the fire pretty much matches the description of the fire in Napa and Sonoma County. And again, if you've looked at what happened in Napa, I saw a video camera. It was one of these cameras that's used for surveillance security. It's one of those home units. And it was on. And this was during the night of the fire, and it's recording all these flashes that are coming out of the sky. And this went on for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 minutes with this home surveillance video. I think some of you probably have seen it. I know somebody from the listening audience sent one to me, sent the copy of that video to me. If you can find it, check it out. It's pretty mind-blowing. And what happened with the Napa Sonoma fire is that it just exploded and just took off like wildfire overnight. Well, the same thing has happened here in Southern California. Let me see if I can get the description. This is from the Washington Post. I'm just going to read it to you here. An explosive brush fire raced through Southern California with, here we go, ferocious speed. Ferocious speed. Where have we heard that before? Tuesday. It doesn't happen during the day. It happens at night. Spreading from about 50 acres to an estimated 31,000 acres in a matter of hours. Forcing residents to flee. Thousands of residents to flee. Named the Thomas Fire, it began in a canyon near Santa Paula, about 65 miles northwest of downtown LA by 4 a.m. Pacific time. The fire had advanced into the city limits of Ventura with a population of more than 100,000, emergency officials said. The fire is still out of control, and structures continue to be threatened throughout the fire area, officials said in a pre-dawn update. Due to the intensity of the fire, crews are having trouble making access, and there are multiple reports of structures on fire. Now keep in mind, these are not your garden variety, your average garden variety fires. The planet has been doused in an accelerant, the entire planet. What do you think is coming down from our atmosphere? It's the usual suspects: barium, manganese, iron oxide, and of course, aluminum. And aluminum turns out to be, it's a desiccant. What is it? Okay, so here we go. When you have used underarm deodorant in your lifetime, back in the old days when you didn't really know any better, what was the prime ingredient in your underarm deodorant? It was aluminum chlorhydrate. And what did it do? It dried out your sweat glands in your armpits. That's how it worked. You throw the aluminum chlorhydrate on there and you wind up having what? Dry pits. So aluminum is a desiccant. What does it do? It dries things out. That's exactly what it does. And when it dries things out, it also becomes this accelerant at the same time. What we have fires that are hellish. They're almost unable to be fought. That's the nature of the fire. That's the heat of the fire. So you get these guys coming in, and I guarantee you talk to fire people, and they'll tell you that they haven't seen anything like these fires recently in the last 10 years. And this is nothing new. It's been going on for a while. They had a huge fire in Arizona. You remember when those guys got killed in that fire? They had that fire shield. I think there were 10 of them, and some of them were actually related, like cousins and brothers. And they just got melted underneath this fire shield because the fire was so hot. I'm pretty sure it was Arizona. It might have been Colorado. This was, I think, about 4 years ago. Anyway, this is what we're talking about here. And it's because the entire planet has been doused with an accelerant. It's a tinderbox waiting to go up at any given point in time. Let me continue to read this. The fire is still out of control. Instructors continue to be threatened throughout the fire area. Officials said in a pre-dawn update, due to the intensity, the fire crews are having trouble making access, and there are multiple reports of structures on fire. Another fire, this one dubbed the Creek Fire, was also spreading north of downtown Los Angeles, this one stretching across 500 acres. As the Thomas fire spread, the Ventura County Fire Department issued a dire warning early Tuesday saying conditions were expected to worsen. Incident commander reporting winds are increasing. Now the winds are whipping up. Expect fire behavior to increase over the entire incident, a department spokesman tweeted. While Ventura County Fire Chief Mark Lorenzen said at an overnight news conference that one person was killed in a car crash while trying to evacuate, authorities said early Tuesday that no people have been confirmed dead. Local reports said the overnight fatality was believed to have been a dog rather than a person. Okay. A fire department spokesman did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The fire has destroyed at least 150 structures, according to the department, which said at least one firefighter has been injured in the blaze. Further information on the injury was not immediately available. Authorities have given evacuation notices to more than 27,000 people of Santa Paula and Ventura, both of which have been declared states of emergency. This is interesting. This is a very interesting little pivot moment here in the narrative. So the state of California has been unusually uncooperative with the federal government, and this is just a notice. It's just a notice. I'm not going to weigh in, although I could if I wanted to. Unusually uncooperative, especially when it comes to the sanctuary cities, deportation, ICE, etc., etc., etc. Basically, big middle finger to the federal government. And yet, here comes a disaster, and if they have emergency disaster status or state of emergency disaster status, what are they going to want? They're going to want federal money to help them out. This is a very interesting moment in time. You know, if the federal government wanted to play heavy with them, they could. They could say, "Look, you got to start playing ball on the immigration side of things. Play nice. Agree in principle, and we'll bail you out. Don't agree in principle, and we'll kind of bail you out." Authorities have given notices to more than 27,000 residents in the city of Santa Paula and Ventura, both of which have declared states of emergency. More than 7,500 homes are under mandatory evacuation, authorities said in a statement early Tuesday morning. The prospects for containment are not good, Lorenzen said in a news conference, adding that there was no possibility of using aircraft at night to help contain the blaze. Really, Mother Nature is going to decide if we have the ability to put it out. The National Weather Service reported that damaging winds and very critical fire weather conditions would remain Tuesday and will return late Wednesday night into Thursday, warning that these conditions could lead to very rapid fire growth and extreme fire behavior. The NWS issued a red flag warning for Ventura and Los Angeles, saying wind gusts between 50 to 70 miles per hour are likely through Thursday. How does this happen? Is it the fire that's causing these Sirocco winds? Is it that right around this time of year they get the devil winds out of the Southern California desert? Or are the winds themselves manufactured as well, just like they manufacture or direct and guide, accumulate the massive power of hurricanes and then steer them over certain points on land? Authorities had warned that a combination of strong winds and low humidity this week could increase the wildfire risk across Southern California. CAL FIRE said it had moved resources from the northern part of the state to the south and prepared aircraft and fire equipment to respond. Firefighters were also responding Tuesday to a brush fire in Los Angeles County. The creek fire broke out across the county's foothills in an area northwest of Pasadena, according to the National Weather Service, and CAL FIRE said it had grown to encompass 500 acres by sunrise on Tuesday. I've seen this in Southern California. I've lived there, and I've seen where they have multiple fires across sometimes about a 200-mile region. Let's see what else we have here. A spokesman for the Los Angeles County Fire Department said on Twitter that the 3-alarm blaze had prompted mandatory evacuations. Los Angeles City fire officials said the creek fire began outside the city before threatening parts of Sylmar and Lakeview Terrace areas. Early Tuesday morning, officials said 500 firefighters were on the scene of the spreading Thomas fire, with more resources heading there, along with scores of law enforcement officers responding to help with evacuations and road closures. So what happens in these situations? And I remember I lived through one. One time I was living in Escondido, California, and we had fires right there. Escondido, San Diego. It was crazy. It was totally, I've never seen anything like it before. The hills were on fire. There was fire in the center divide and the freeways. It was just, I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. The fire jumped the freeway one time and it was headed towards Miramar Air Force Base. It was crazy. There was so much ash and soot in the air that we had to stay home from work for 3 days. I mean, it was so bad that we were videotaping everything that we had. And we were getting numbers because we thought we're going to have to evacuate. That's what it felt like. That's how bad it was. Now, that was happening. And at the same time, there was a fire in Ventura County, actually Simi Valley. And at the same time, there was a fire going on in East San Diego. So what happens with these fires is it spreads the ability to fight the fire across a number of different areas so that they can't concentrate all their resources onto one fire. Sounds a little conspiratorial, doesn't it? In some ways, right? You'd have to be a crazy conspiracy theorist to think that maybe perhaps the fires, which are almost always, I'd say 90% of the time, intentionally set, are done so in a way that, well, draws people and resources further apart. It's a crazy conspiratorial thought. Or it could just be that this is just the way things are and fire is in the air, just like guns are independent of the people that shoot them and use them. No, they're just the bad thing. Okay. It's always difficult and somewhat dangerous to fly at night. So let me go back here. 4 helicopters were making water drops to fight the flames, but by 9:30 p.m. local time, on Monday, they were grounded after conditions were deemed unsafe to fly at night. It's always difficult and somewhat dangerous to fly at night. So depending on different conditions and the geographical challenges is how they evaluate whether or not they can operate at night. Ventura firefighter Jason Hodge told Los Angeles Times. Choppers with fixed-wing aircraft are expected to attack the fire at daybreak, officials said in a statement. The fire also caused outages throughout Santa Barbara and Ventura counties, leaving more than 260,000 people without power, Southern California Edison said in a tweet. It's a lot of people. The blaze began Monday in the hills near Thomas Aquinas College in Santa Paula. Thomas Aquinas. All this is straw before what I have just seen. The Los Angeles Times reported it. It was first reported at 6:24 p.m. Pacific Time. Ventura County Fire Sergeant Eric Buschow told the Washington Post and has moved unbelievably fast since then. A mixture of dry foliage from a continued drought, low humidity, and sustained winds of more than 30 miles per hour throughout the evening led to its explosive growth. Some outlets reported the winds exceeded 50 miles per hour. If you've never been in a fire or around a fire, it is one of the most freaky and frightening things you'll ever witness. Trust me. There's an intensity around fires that are unlike anything else. You can be. I've been in heavy duty sub-hurricane conditions. I've been in heavy duty snow and cold, but there's nothing like having to deal with a fire because of its just rampant nature. And there's violence in fire. There's absolute violence in it. Speaking of violence, anybody watch the football game last night between the Steelers and the Bengals, Monday Night Football? Now, the Steelers and the Bengals have a heated rivalry. These are two teams that do not like each other. And these are two teams that are loaded with players that take it to the limits and then some. For Cincinnati, it is a linebacker by the name of Vontaze Burfict, who plays, let's just say, up to the whistle and beyond. And for the Steelers, it could be just about anybody on the defense because they've been conditioned to be that way. I've never seen an NFL game. The closest I saw to a game like this was the playoff game that the Steelers and the Bengals had 2 years ago, which was, at that time, probably the most violent game I'd ever seen. This game was even more violent than that. And it started off quite early when a young man by the name of Ryan Shazier went to make a tackle on a player, running back, for the Cincinnati Bengals. And Shazier led with his helmet, and he put his head down, which is an absolute no, you don't do this. You don't tackle with your head down, leading with your head. And boy, after I saw, as soon as I saw it, and as soon as I saw him on the ground, I just said, he's fucked. You know why? He tried to get up, and he couldn't get up. He could move his arms, but he couldn't get up. His legs lie there motionless on the ground. And they had to put him on a board. They had to put him on a board and take him right off the field, straight to a hospital in Cincinnati. And as they were taking him off the field, he had his hands to his head. I mean, I can only imagine what was going on in his brain in that moment. I'm sure pain, but the pain done by adrenaline somewhat. But trying to wrap his head around in that conscious moment that he couldn't move his lower torso. And thinking, I'm screwed. I'm paralyzed. This is how the game started. And what's fascinating about that event is that the game continued, and it continued at an accelerated level of violence. You know, it's just amazing to me. I mean, and I've been a football fan for a long time. This season has just been really, really horrendous season, and it's just another nail in the coffin of pro football and the NFL. Last night's game, even the announcers were talking about it. John Gruden, who's a former coach, Super Bowl winning coach, was disgusted and deplored by the game. He said, "This is not how we should play the game. The players need to police themselves." The players were unhinged and out of control. And this has been, I'll tell you what. Okay, I'm going to get into some controversial territory here. But let me get back to the game itself. Given any other activity, let's say that happened in a non-professional setting and somebody gets put on, and what they do is they put them on this board and they isolate them very, very quickly. They try to create zero movement. But I think they try to freeze it up very quickly too. I think that's one of their latest things, that they try to get as much cryo on the injury as possible to stop whatever's going on as quickly as possible, kind of keep it in abeyance. But once that happened, wouldn't the same thing be to just stop the game? You've just seen this guy who may be paralyzed for the rest of his life, and half the experience, the Steelers play with the guy, practice with the guy, live and go out to dinner and do all these things with the guy. You would think that at least that part of the contingency would say, "Look, this is bigger than us. We got to shut this down." But what happens is that they're conditioned. This is almost like war. Football is like war. They're conditioned to compartmentalize that trauma. Because it's trauma. It's like watching somebody get shot in Afghanistan or northern Iraq. So you compartmentalize. And then, in order to survive, what do? You have to realign with that spirit of aggression and violence. Because if you don't, and you're on that field, and you're a pacifist, I guarantee you, it's going to be even worse. You can't be a pacifist on a football field. You have to inhabit the spirit of aggression and violence, so that you can at least stand a chance with somebody else who's possessed with the same demonic force. I mean, this is the way it is. And not only did they not stop the game, which I really think they should have. I think both teams should just look at each other. This is not good. What would happen if that happened? That would send ripple waves throughout not just sports, but the entire world. That in that moment, two teams decided to not play because of what happened to a player at a particular time in the game. What are they going to do? Force them at gunpoint to go back on the field and shoot and play the game? I would pay to see that. It'd be an absolute first. An absolute first. It's like these guys, they'll take a knee, they'll do their thing for social justice. But God forbid they stop playing a game because somebody might be paralyzed. Anyway, so the violence got escalated. I couldn't believe it. It was like, holy shit. Not only did they it was like there was almost like there was payback involved. There's this one scene, one play where the notorious Vontaze Burfict was just kind of standing there, slowly running towards a play, but the play was coming to its conclusion. And this young guy from the Steelers, who seems like a really nice young kid, he's a rookie, he's had some really nice stories this year, just blindsides him. Just totally blindsides him. And then he stands over him and he lords it over him like, "Yeah, got you, motherfucker." And then he has the audacity to say that he was just trying to finish the play. No, he was trying to hurt the guy. And a lot of people will say that Vontaze Burfict had it coming because that's what he does. hey, we're met by our own spirits. That's part of what happens in life, right? Some people call it karma. It's just the law of balanced interchange. Anyway, but you can't you can't just say I'm just finishing the play and then stand over him like it's the WWE. And they're not alone. On Sunday, Rob Gronkowski, plays for the New England Patriots, was getting mugged all game by a guy by the name of Tre'Davious White. Holding him, clutching him. None of it's getting called by the refs. And finally, on one play where Tre'Davious White had been holding and clutching Gronkowski, got position on him and intercepted a pass. Gronkowski didn't like it. He jumped on him. And gave him an elbow to the head. Tre'Davious White left the game with a concussion. This is where things are going, man. I've never seen anything like this with football before. And last night I was watching the Golden State. I didn't watch the Golden State Warriors. I just saw the highlights. And here's Kevin Durant, who's normally kind of a pacifist. And he's getting into it with this guy named DeMarcus Cousins, who's clearly not a pacifist. And they're barking at each other. I mean, they're about maybe, a couple tenths of a centimeter of anger from throwing down and going after each other. 2 nights ago, the Golden State Warriors, again, a normal pacifist, Sean Livingston, got into it with a ref. And the ref was goading him. And and Sean Livingston got kicked out of the game by the ref. Well, they both got suspended. The ref so there's something going on in pro sports right now because the spirit of anger has been unleashed. The spirit of anger, the spirit of frustration, the spirit of retribution. You see, one of the things that we don't understand at a spiritual level, at a very high, sophisticated spiritual level where there's energy interchange, is that when you have a group of people who are engaged in the projection and the channeling of emotion as it relates to thousands and millions of people, when they are engaged in that act, everything is amplified. It is amplified by the force of the others that are engaging in it in that moment. It is amplified by the witnessing of it of those around them in the moment. And then it is amplified further by the observations and to some degree even the commentary, which is what I'm doing. But what I'm trying to do is de-escalate the amplification to give you an understanding about how this all occurs. So what we have here is we have the equivalent of what? It's like a bomb that goes off. And the closer you are to the bomb, the more intense it gets. But the waves of that bomb spread out further and further and further. So what we've had over the last year is we've had these levels of violence and aggression. And it's not just the NFL, it's the NBA, because under the spirit of activism, this violence and aggression has been unleashed. It's like a demon. It's like a demon has been unleashed in professional sports. And it's just moving around, looking to occupy whoever is in that moment willing to accept the demonic bargain. And the demonic bargain isn't you do this and you'll get fame and fortune and all those, false idolatrous goodies that are promised. No, the bargain is much more cheap and venal than that. The bargain is being able to channel your emotion in that moment in a way that is completely unconscious. And we're all guilty of it. He raises his hand. This is the big time, the big test we're living in right now. And it's like, whoa, wouldn't you just like to do that? Wouldn't you just like to do that? Wouldn't you just like to put your fist right through that person's face? Wouldn't that just feel so good? Oh. See, that's the spirit that's lurking around us all the time now. And you've got to be really on your toes. And if you've got any kind of unchecked aggression in your body, you got to get it out. You've got to run that stuff. It's either through meditation or excitation, which would be some form of exercise. You exercise or you exercise. One of the two, right? This is the way, I mean, come on. This is what's swirling around. This is what's been unleashed onto the world. It's happening right now. I watched it last night during that NFL game. That NFL game was a version of hell on earth. So Ryan Shazier, the guy who got carted off, he's got a spinal contusion. We'll see what happens there. You know, they're waiting for the swelling of the spine to go down. Pray for that guy. You know, he's 25 years old. And I don't care how much money he's got already at 25. He's probably still on his rookie contract. It's not worth it for losing your legs. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that. But it's been the spirit of violence that's been unleashed. The spirit of anger. I've seen this. But nobody wants to talk about it. You know, I saw it with Richard Sherman, about 3 weeks into the season when they were playing the Tennessee Titans. And he went berserk. He went absolutely berserk. And went after one of the Titan players. And he shoved her, he touched a ref. He didn't get thrown out for it either. So we've incited the spirit of anarchy through sports. And that amplification process I talked about is quite real. And it's pervading our society. It's what's happened. We've become its host in a lot of ways. How many people on the left? You got people on the left that are doing things that they wouldn't normally do. The theoretical pacifists of the political system. No. You got people on the right who are just frothing at the mouth, you know, using their own version of restraint, but I'm sure just fantasizing about what they would do if somebody from the left did something to them first. These are very intense times, just in terms of aggression. It's powerful. And we've got Mars and Libra, and we're in that, and we've been in that opposition with Uranus. And Mars is going to be moving into Scorpio next. Oh boy, going into America's 12th house, based on the Sibley chart. So that was a very intense game last night. Super, super, super intense. And the results of it were not great. You know what else happened yesterday? This is another thing. It's connected to the NFL. There's so much content associated with the NFL. So the Kneelers wound up getting $79 million, $80 million from the NFL. The NFL pulled money from some of their other groups that they donate to, like the Cancer Fund and Susan G. Komen and all that other stuff. They pulled, I think, $79 or $80 million together, and they gave it to the players as part of a social justice fund. And as soon as they got the money, what do you think happened? They began bitching and complaining that it wasn't enough, that it's a step in the right direction, but there's more that needs to be done. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. You know, and there's this guy, Malcolm Jenkins, who plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he was one of the lead dogs in this, you know, pack to get the NFL behind their social justice causes. Him and Eric Reed, who plays for the San Francisco 49ers. And as soon as that happened, there were people from the league, players, who started bad-mouthing Malcolm Jenkins. And they essentially called him an Uncle Tom for accepting the league's money. I mean, that would just drive me batshit crazy. It's like, here we are, we're on the front lines, we're trying to get these people to wake up, even though theoretically they have no responsibility at all. The only responsibility that they have is to pay us. And then it's on us, if we want to take our money and our time to reinvest it in the areas that we came from. Now, the league might decide that, okay, we want to have, some funds that support these, absolutely poor areas where they get their talent pool from. Yeah, maybe they want to go in and put in an athletic center, make sure the kids get fed on a regular basis. So, and I'm going to be just coldly cynical here, so that they can continue to get the flow of the talent pool coming out of that area so they can stock their league with talent for years to come. You may as well make those players or help those players grow physically, give them some supervision, make sure they're able to stay in school so that they can continue their journey, so that some of them can wind up playing in your league and you get a return on investment on them. I don't think that's being too cynical. And that might be the best way for the league to come in and help. Say, look, we'll put in athletic centers in all these different areas. We'll make sure we've got a program in place to feed the kids. And we'll put in a mentor program in school to make sure they stay in school. So they can go through, play high school football, get an education, get to the college level, get an education, and get ready to play in the NFL. That might be the best way they contribute. But instead, what they did is they gave these guys $80 million. And then now they start bitching and complaining. It's not enough. It's just a start. And then they're calling out the guy that negotiated it. What's he supposed to do? It's like, isn't that what you're fighting for? I mean, but here's where it's at, okay? This is probably one of the most important things to understand around this whole process. Because change never has an end goal. Change is a state of constant revolution. There's no end goal with change. It's just continual. And so, okay, well here, how about this? It's okay. Not bad. We need more. Why do you need more? Because you haven't done it in the right way, in the right spirit, or the right amount of money. Okay, let's work on this. Let's huddle up. Okay, what if we gave you this? Well, it's a little bit better. But we're not quite there yet. Don't you understand the true nature of the problem? You don't get it. You don't get it. All right, let's huddle up here. Okay, here we go. This is it. Well, it's a little bit better. You're getting closer. I have to admit that your efforts are worth something. But what you're really giving us, at the end of the day, you're just placating us. We know that. Ha 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 ha! You've got you by the balls. You want to know what change looks like? I'll tell you what change looks like. Change looks like Zimbabwe. That's what change looks like. And South Africa is knocking out that door. That's what change looks like. Because ultimately, the goal is just to burn everything down. That's the ultimate goal, and take as many resources as possible along the way. You don't think I'm come on, I've gone down this path. All right. Let me give you an example. Let's say you got an adolescent kid. And they want this, and they want that, and they want this, and they want that. And they think if they can get this, it'll make their lives better. If they think they can get this, it'll make their lives better. If they think that you can do something for them, it'll make their lives better. And what happens is that none of it gets better. But along the way, you get played, and there's emotional extortion, and all these things. But they're really just adolescents. They don't know. They don't know. They don't know until they get older that they probably have it pretty damn good. But it's the spirit of change, the spirit of rebellion. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad spirit. Under really, really oppressive circumstances, it can really be your friend. I mean, you get enough is enough, and then what are you doing? You're taking on a bully. But if the spirit of oppression and circumstances is a fabrication, and it's an illusion and a deception, then the spirit of change or revolution is being used in a way that is duplicitous. And who becomes the bully at that point? I got a great email from a listener yesterday, or 2 days ago. And she brought up this idea about raising children during adolescence. And she said that it's the ultimate kind of irony or paradox, because the parent is looking for the perfect child and the child is looking for the perfect parent. And it's through that period where we begin to understand the fallibility of both. And the only thing that comes out of it, or can come out of it, is forgiveness. That everybody's doing the best they can. And I firmly believe that. And even in the clinches where you may have the most hammerlocked relationship with somebody in your life, that there is an underlying premise in each person that they are convinced that they are doing the best they can. And in some ways that is even true. And they may be completely out on the margins, but in their minds they're doing the best they can. This is one of the more difficult things to wrap our heads around. And it is really the nexus point of forgiveness. Oh boy, this Mercury retrograde is fun, huh? It's totally fun. I'm into it, man. Telling you. What else is on my agenda today? Anything else here? Let's see. Here we go. I wanted to talk about this. Usually cover about 3 things. Because 3 is the magic number. Okay. What do we have here? 10,000 Google staff set to police YouTube content. Whoa! Where's this coming from? It's coming from AFP. London, AFP. YouTube chief executive Susan Wojcicki claimed that her company had developed computer learning technology to identify extremist videos, and that it can be also used to identify content that risks children's safety. You mean that crazy, creepy, computer-animated content that had 10 million views because parents put these stupid children's videos, these cartoons, in front of their kids on their tablets just to dazzle and occupy them? And meanwhile, kids are getting their heads cut off in these videos. Are you kidding me? Finally? You think YouTube has woken up to that? They're getting 10 million views on stuff. That's really juicy to advertisers. They can say to an advertiser, look at this. You got to jump on board. You got to get on board this. These bizarre kid cartoons. Oh, they're just so weird and funny and ironic. You have ad buyers on the other side who are as equally twisted and demented. Oh, that looks great. I can't wait to spend our money on that. Google is to deploy a staff of 10,000 to hunt down extremist content on its YouTube platform following recent criticism. The video sharing site's chief executive told Britain's Daily Telegraph Tuesday. Susan Wojcicki. How come they didn't change that name when they came to Ellis Island? That's hard to say. Susan Wojcicki admitted in the broadsheet that bad actors had used the website to mislead, manipulate, harass, or even harm. Oh, you mean unlike the good actors that they use when they have false flag operations? Crisis actors? British Prime Minister Theresa May has put pressure on internet giants to root out online radical material following a spate of terror attacks, while YouTube last week pulled 150,000 videos of children after lewd comments about them were posted by viewers. Yeah, about time. Wasicki claimed that her company had developed computer learning technology to identify extremist videos. Oh boy. They could also be used to identify content that risks children's safety. We will continue the growth of our teams with the goal of bringing the total number of people across Google working to address content that might violate our policies to over 10,000 in 2018. Last week's move to take down suspect content came after a British newspaper reported that ads for big-name brands were displayed alongside videos of children or teens, while innocent on their own, drew viewer comments that seemed pedophilic in nature. YouTube got busted. Media reports indicate the situation made advertisers skittish with some halting YouTube advertising. Well, this is a fantastic way to go in and use the pedophilic content to go after political content or red pill content. Let's just get that too while we're at it. Let's just do a purge. All right. Let's see the reactions here. I love reading the comments. More like they will censor content. They protected the babbling baby boy blunder Obama for 8 years. This won't touch Islamic extremists or pro-Antifa anarcho-Marxists. This censorship army is out to protect feminist rhetoric and other SJW causes while shutting down anything conservative. I'm not reading from Alex Jones and InfoWars. This is coming off Yahoo. Here comes the censorship. What else do we have? After censorship, they're going to have to change their name to TheirTube. Conservative content will be labeled extreme. It already is. Trump should break up Facebook, Google monopoly. No doubt. No doubt. Google owns YouTube. And it's like, absolutely. More likely, it will censor conservative views. Google owns YouTube is just another globalist multinational conglomerate which dominates the search and video space. Conglomerates are not productive corporations, but non-productive holding companies that buy, control, and sell productive corporations, whose only reason for existence is to eliminate competition. As this one dominates the video posting space of the web, it is the last one that should decide what is worth viewing or not, aka censorship. Simply, need to break up Google and YouTube. Should never have allowed Google to buy YouTube. I totally agree. Totally agree. Free speech terrifies Democrats. The ultimate goal of the leftist media is to control what you hear, do, eat, and say. They do not want you to know the truth. It is considered culturally insensitive in Europe to say that Jesus Christ is the only way to heaven. Jail time and fines have existed for years. Please study your Bible, 2 Corinthians 4:3-5. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world, Satan, hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. For we preach not ourselves, but Christ, Jesus the Lord, and ourselves your servant for Jesus' sake. There you go. I can't wait for the left to take complete political advantage of this, to shut down contrary opinion. Don't use Google, there are alternates. Don't watch YouTube. Get off Facebook, people. Our society will be known as the screen addicts. We got rid of our cable TV, used DuckDuckGo for search engine, low to no ads, trafficking, stealing your info, use Tor browser to surf the web anonymously. Avoid all links to Google, FB, iPhone bullshit. If you knew what they are doing to your freedom, every week, month, year, you would be and should be disgusted. Okay, I just read the top 10 comments. That's on Yahoo. This is not an InfoWars crowd. Are you kidding me? You don't think there's an awakening going on? Take solace in the fact that people are waking up. And this clown for ABC, Brian Ross, Mr. Fake News bullshit that he did on Friday, if anything, if Trump will be credited with anything, if the world were to end tomorrow and we'd have to repiece it and we'd have some oral history of the world, Trump would be credited for finally taking a hammer and smashing the industrial news complex and that we've been getting crap media fed to us for decades. Even Walter Cronkite would sit there every single night telling us about the news in that patrician and stentorian fashion. Even he was a complete and utter bullshit artist. He was! Walter Cronkite was a high-level Luciferian. He used to go to the Bohemian Grove. I think he even wrote a big speech for the Bohemian Grove one night. Check it out. It's on them internet. The awakening has begun. There it is. It's right there. Right in that page. Who can dispute that? Who can dispute the fact? It's on. So unlike Donkey Kong, God, take solace in the idea that you're not alone. You're not. You may be separate in some ways. Your community, you may be the only person on your block that thinks the way you do. At least that's what you might think. But if you really sat down and talked to your neighbors, you might find that you might share a bit more than you think. It is on. The awakening is on. And when that happens, then guess what happens? The other side, the contrary portion of this through the Gemini moon, they become aware that you're becoming aware. Hey. And then we have next level game changing. And the next level game changing is what's happening, going to happen on YouTube. It's already been happening. It's going to get more aggressive. So then we have another level and another level and another level. So we're involved now in a very dynamic process. And I know it's hard. I know it's difficult to keep everything together. But take solace in the fact that people are waking up. Finally. Finally. We just wonder and hope that it's not going to be a bit late. Because we're certainly running into that event horizon with 5G and everything that's coming right around 2025. That's going to be the big game changer. So we've got 7 years, and probably maybe 2 to 3, where we can actually be very effective before the breadth of the infrastructure has been laid down. But remember, your thoughts, your ideas, and your witnessing is a very powerful tool to all of this. It's a very powerful tool. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that. All right, why don't we get on out of here? Thanks for listening today. You've been listening to 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm Robert Phoenix. Again, if you would like to get an astrological reading, because that's what I do. That's how I make my bread and butter. My bread and butter. Come on over to my website. I got some great specials going on. Reading specials for the holidays. And I also have a webinar I'm doing at astrolotta.com. And that has to do with Saturn. It's this Saturday. This Saturn day. I'll be talking about Saturn in Capricorn. Sorry, I couldn't resist. All right, use your head to discern what's real, your heart to say it what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix, and I'll see you 24 hours from today. And for all you people in Southern California, oh boy, God bless you. I hope that you can get back to your home safely and as much minimal damage as possible occurs there. Let's just all envision a big giant rain cloud coming over Southern California and giving these people